It is a rainy Monday in San Diego and we are inside, so why not cook dinner? Tonight we're going to make a frittata. Frittata is just an Italian egg dish, really, and if you loosely translate Italian, frittata means fried. And like the old school frittatas could just be fried eggs, it could be basically anything. The one big difference between a frittata, the Italian sort, and a Spanish tortilla, which is another egg dish, is that that tortilla has a layer of potatoes that kind of start it off, and then you build your eggs on top of it. Frittata, we can, I mean, the way we know it now, we can put basically any vegetable in it. You can put meats in it. You can go in whatever direction you want. Tonight's frittata, we're going to go in a Mediterranean direction and add in some feta cheese, and we have some Kalamata olives that found in the fridge. It was kind of refrigerator hunting tonight to find the ingredients and go with the theme. So I dug out a bunch of stuff. The nice thing with frittatas is you can use basically any vegetable you like. I mean, I found here's part of a red onion that was in the fridge, so we're going to use that tonight. I have some green onions that are probably on their last leg. Guess what? They're going to go in there tonight. Just the heart of the celery, I'm going to put this in. I'm going to have some extra Roma tomatoes. We'll throw that in and then kind of finish it off. I'll probably even use a little lemon. We're not going to go meat tonight. So if you consider eggs to be vegetarian, then this is a vegetarian dinner tonight. If eggs are a meat to you, then sorry, it's not. But there will be cheese in here, and it should be delicious. I'm also going to use, we had some leftover, a couple of nights ago we did this vegan rice and lentil dish, and I made a whole ton of it. So I'm going to serve this on the side with it. The great thing with this dish is it lasts forever. And then that yogurt that goes, or the laban, that goes with this injatada that we made the other night, also will go with the frittata. So it's two dishes that will tie together well. They won't be similar in flavor, but they'll taste great. And it's a way to use leftovers that's not completely changing what the leftover is. I mean, we could try and add this to eggs and do something, but we're going to keep this its normal flavor. And a good way to empty out the fridge. So here we go, frittata time. I have a cast iron skillet. We're going to get that heated up right now. I also have an oven that I have at 425. That's going to help me finish in the oven. So we're going to be, as you can see, we're going to be cooking it kind of from the bottom up, and then we want to finish from the top down, so that we don't overcook the eggs and we still stay super fluffy. So I have a bowl here that'll go with the eggs. That'll be second. First things first, we're going to cook some of our vegetables. We want to make sure that any vegetable that has a bite to it gets cooked here. We're not going to trust that it's going to cook in the oven. The goal here is to soften the vegetables to the texture that we want and only worry about the egg cooking at that point. So let's start things off. So I know that the longest will be the celery and the onion. I'm going to add just a little bit of olive oil to the cast iron to saute. I'm going to have this probably at medium-low for right now. We're not trying to get like a screaming hot sear or anything. We're just trying to cook down these vegetables. I am good with the layers, so here we go. So thinking about what we're doing here and what our finished product's going to be, we want a little bit of onion in each bite. We don't want to have any big, huge chunks. So I'm probably going to go with a dice here on this guy, so let's do it. And I'm not going to go strips because I don't want to have like a big stringy piece of onion going through. So I really just want to get a little bit of onion flavor in each bite. I am also using a second onion. I'm using a green onion. So I might not need maybe a whole red onion for this. So that's why what I found in the fridge is kind of perfect. And then I can always, if this is what I had what is this, about a third of an onion. I can always put a little bit of brown onion. I can use onion powder. I can do all sorts of different things. We just want to make sure that we have a little bit in each bite. So I'm going to go through and make sure there's nothing with this red onion. There's always that outside layer that just doesn't want to cut. I'm going to make sure I get this guy chopped up so we don't have any big pieces in there. My oven is preheated. Like I said, it was 425 that I'm putting this at. Now I'm ready to put this in. I'm going to turn this up to high. We're going to get it heated up pretty good. You're welcome to do all of your cutting beforehand and have everything off to the side, mise en place style. But it's up to you. If you're comfortable with working under pressure, then you can cut as you go. So with the celery, I'm just going to soften this as well in with the onions. This will go in second. I'm also trying not to have big pieces, so I'm going to come down the rib of the celery and cut it into little sticks. I'm probably going to get 3 sticks out of an average piece of celery. If it's a huge piece, you can go 4 sticks, no problem. This is kind of toward the center of the celery, so I'm not going to be using the bottoms because they can be super fibrous and bitter. Those will go off to the side. One, two, and then this one's a little piece, so I'm actually just going to kind of split it up. So here's my celery sticks. They're just going to be diced up pretty small. They'll add a little celery flavor, and hopefully we soften it, but not too much, so that we still get a little bit of texture, because that's what we're trying to get here from the celery. For this, I used 4 stalks because they were small. If they were larger, I'd probably use less. And I might, looking at this, eyeballing it, I may not use all of these 4 stalks either. Great thing with frittatas is the only real part of the recipe that you need to know is that you want to make sure you have enough eggs for the size pan you're using. I'm using a cast iron skillet that I use for so many different things. So let's bring this up a little bit. And I'm pretty comfortable with 12 eggs going in here and it giving me a frittata about that thick. So here we go. Onions are going in. I'm trying to get these cooked without burning them. I have a burnt onion flavor that's going to be happening in that rice mixture from the other night. So I'm going to get them starting to saute. And then I'm going to move this from super high heat. Bring this up a little bit. Super high heat in probably 30 seconds or so, and I'm going to turn it down to about medium. Let's bring you over to this. So here's where I am now. You can see how small this is. I don't want to really get too much browning, but I'm starting to smell it, so at this point, down we go to medium. Next thing that's going in, we're here. Might be a little low, let's see. That's good. Next thing that's going in is the celery that I just prepared. Let's see if I can fix this for you here. So the celery's going in second. We want to get this softened. Stir it around here. For this portion, I would highly recommend not using butter yet. You can add butter in right before the eggs, and that's fine, but here that butter will tend to burn and separate. We're going to end up turning this thing down pretty low when we add the eggs in because we don't want the eggs to burn at the bottom before they get cooked in the middle. So I have onions and celery going here. If you want to add garlic, you can. Why am I not using garlic? I don't know. Let's see, I have celery, red onion. I'm going to put green onion in. Yeah, why not? Let's add some garlic in. So I'm going to grab a couple garlic cloves. So this would be about the point that I would add them in. Basically, I want them to start kind of sweating. So I'm grating this garlic in here. You could absolutely go chopped garlic if you want larger pieces. I'm just kind of looking for that aromatic quality and not an overpowering amount of garlic. So I will probably be good there. I just lost a huge piece in here. Give me a second. Pull that guy out. Let's go one more. So we're at just under 4 stalks of celery, about 1/3 of a red onion, and about 2 cloves of garlic that are going in here. If you don't have a cast iron and you have an oven-safe pan of some sort that's flat, that's fine. Just make sure that you have it coated with some sort of fat. Olive oil would be just fine for what we're doing here. Okay, I'm good with that. Next thing I'm going to do is dice some tomatoes. That will get added in. For me, I like using a serrated edge knife when I'm dicing tomatoes. I don't need it to be a super pretty cut. All I'm trying to do is make sure I'm getting them consistent. And the problem sometimes with tomatoes is they'll smash down if you put any pressure with the knife. So this is a back and forth motion's no problem. If I'm trying to do really nice, pretty sliced tomato that's going to be served raw, at that point I'd use my nicer knife, start at the heel, and work this way. But here I'm just trying to kind of saw through it and have it consistent. So I think we'll use 1 tomato because I don't want it to be a tomato heavy dish. I just want it to be there for a little accent, a little color, and a little acid. The other good news with having this this so low is I can let it sit there for a while and it's not going to do any harm. I'm not burning anything. Just kind of softening even more. The other good news with a serrated knife here when doing this with the tomatoes is it really kind of just digs in and grips the tomato well so it doesn't slip too much on you. All right, there's 1 Roma tomato that's going in. It's not going to seem like a lot right away, but as it cooks down, it's going to be just fine. All right, I'm going to go to low now. Kosher salt. I'm going to add this salt in a few different places. I'm adding it now to the vegetables that are going to be part of the middle of the frittata. I'm going to add it again to the eggs, but I'm not going to go too heavy because I'm going to be adding these Kalamata olives that are going to be super salty into it. I'm probably not going to add them to anything until the very end of the egg. Once I put the egg mixture in, I'll put some in because I'm not looking to saute them too heavily. I have 1 more piece of tomato I'm going to add in. Let's add that tomato. Show you what this looks like. So there's our mixture. It's just red onions, a little bit of garlic, some celery, some Roma tomato, salt and olive oil. That's it right now. The green onions will go in at the end as well because we want to keep them green and vibrant. The more you cook them, the more brown they get. So we're going to hold off on that. So next up are eggs. I have a dozen eggs. Just be careful not to get the shells in this mixture. A smaller pan or a smaller amount. This is about probably serving for 6 people right here. You can use a half a dozen if you have a smaller pan. The one thing you want to make sure you do is have you want to have some thickness to it. So you want to kind of eyeball and make sure you're going halfway up your pan. Did get one piece of shell in here. It's going to come out now.
But they don't do any stupid mix.
3 to go. If you have egg whites, you can use them. It's just not going to have that richness that you might get from a normal frittata. If you're going to do it and really don't care about the fat content part and you're just trying to cut down the cholesterol, just maybe add some more cheese to it and that will kind of help with that. All right, so here's our dozen eggs. We're going to do kind of 3-step process here. I am going to use a whisk. I'm going to add my ingredients slowly. So first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I get all of the yolks broken here. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And then at this point, I'm going to add in the heaviest fat dairy product that I have. Right now I have some half and half that I've used in the mac and cheese. So that's going to go in and I'm going to really try and whisk, and I'm trying to get air bubbles if I can. If you have heavy whipping cream, that'll be great, and you almost want to make like a whipped cream. If you want to use a stand mixer, you could for this part. The difference between an omelet and a frittata is a frittata is really supposed to expand this way, and you want to get air bubbles in. So the more you can see these little air bubbles here, let me see if I can show you. You can kind of see them on the sides, and there's some right there. The more of those there are, the better once we do this. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of pepper in. I'm going to add a little bit to the vegetables as well. I'm going to have this all the way on low now, all the way on low. I don't want to brown these eggs too much. I want them to cook slowly. Add a little bit more cream. At this point, I'm going to let the eggs sit here for about 30 seconds. I'm going to take these vegetables and spread them around the pan evenly. So let's see how evenly I can get them spread out. Try and make sure nothing is on the sides. Pretty happy there. And here we go. At this point, don't touch your eggs. Let them sit there. Let them sit there. I'm going to add in really quickly, I'm going to chop up some green onion and some Kalamata olives, and I'm going to add them in. They will kind of start sinking, but I have those sauteed vegetables or cooked vegetables that are down at the bottom. They'll end up at the top of the frittata. I'll show you that afterwards. Here go the green onions. Remember, this is on super low. onions, they are now going to go in. I'm going to sprinkle them evenly around the frittata. You'll see them start to sink. That's what we want. Okay, there goes that. Kalamata olives. These are not pitted, so they're going to take a little bit of time. This is going to sit here for maybe 10 minutes, so no problem. I'm going to use a smaller knife, a paring knife. Since I have this out, I'm going to use a serrated edge knife. Since they're not pitted, I'm going to come in and pit each one of them. It's going to take a little bit. If you have an olive pitter, you're welcome to do it. So Mike Katz just asked for grated cheese here. Since I'm going Mediterranean with this one, we're going to go with crumbled feta. Sorry, Mike. No grated cheese in this one. You could cheat and go with some mozzarella in there because it's pretty standard. Not too much overpowering flavor, and still with the saltiness of the feta in there. But I think we're going to stick to what we know. Especially since we're doing that side dish with the rice and lentils, and we're going to be incorporating a lot of yogurt into it. So like I said, if you have an olive pitter, go for it. What I do with it, since I'm dicing them, I'm going to take it this way. I'm going to basically open it up using my thumb and then pull the pit right out. Kalamata is super strong and super salty, so don't do too much. And Mike's asking for grated feta now. Pretty high water content. We'll see what we can do with the feta instead of crumbling it. We'll try and be creative. All right, so I have about, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 olives. I think that's going to do it. Not a lot, because I'm dicing them pretty small, and I don't want you to have a mouthful of olive. I just want them to be there as kind of an accompanying roll. I'll kind of eyeball. I may add a few more, but my gut feeling is that this will probably be what I want to go with. Because remember, not just the salt of this olive that's going in there, but the salt of that feta cheese is also going into it. And I think we're good. Same thing, even distribution. These will sink a lot further, which is why I'm doing them a little bit later here in the dish, because I'm hoping to get them off of the bottom of the pan. You know what? I'm going to do maybe 2, 3 more. The last few steps after I put these olives in. All right, Mike said crumble's fine. Thank you. The last few steps after I put the olives in, I'm going to get the feta. I'm going to do something creative with it. I may do a combination of grated and crumbled. I don't know how to grate feta though, because the water content. And then I will put it in the oven. After I pull it out, I'll probably hit it with something a little bit acidic, like lemon zest. Nothing too crazy, because I'm trying to balance out the oil and the fattiness of the egg. Help brighten up the dish too. All right, so I am happy with the olives. They're all going to go in. So for 12 eggs, I've used 9 olives, and I'm sure that's going to be enough. So you should have just a little bit of olive in every bite, but not, it shouldn't be the star of the dish. All right, so I'm gonna do a little bit of cleanup here. That is still on low, it's still cooking slowly. The shock is going to be once I put it in the oven at 425, all of a sudden it's going to start cooking from all sides. I do not have a pickup window. I was lucky enough to have to take a trip for my mom to get her some TP and stuff, and I stopped by North Park Produce out in Poway, and look at this. So this Bulgarian feta, it's fine, and especially for cooking. If you're eating just raw feta, I would go French. It's delicious. It's never bitter. It's salty. It's gorgeous. But this Bulgarian, look at how much that cost. That is incredible. They were on sale, so I got super excited and went with like 1.25 pounds of it, which I don't know. I don't know if we'll eat it all, but we'll try. So I think for this I'm going to use maybe 1/3 pound of cheese, a considerable amount. That's probably about 1/3 pound right there. So here's what I used. So you can see this, the feta is pretty dense, it's really wet. And we're gonna, you know what, we're gonna kind of go with a little, I don't know, a little smaller than crumble. So I'm gonna use the knife and actually use it to help me crumble the cheese rather than the larger ones you do by hand. But it is definitely wet, a wet cheese here. So the tricky part here is if I come in with my hands and I try and scoop up this cheese, it's going to end up kind of sticking together. And what I want to do is prevent that. So rather than coming in with my hands where things are going to get all smushed together, you can even see as I do this, you can see it kind of smears. So I want to use the knife, and I'm going to scoop it up like that and just carefully come over and let it go in. And that should keep it from turning it into like a mushy cream. And this is a lot of cheese that's going in here. So with that being said, there's going to be a lot of salt. So I do not need to add any more salt to this dish than I already have. I put some in the vegetables. I put some in the egg mixture. We have salt in that Kalamata olive that's going in there, and then there's salt in this feta cheese. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so good though. Be right back. Okay, so it's about to go in the oven. Here's the thing. The rack that you put it on in the oven actually really matters here. So anytime you see, like you're making a frozen pizza or something, it says, hey, put it on the top oven rack. You're gonna notice it cooks a lot better up there because the bottom doesn't get burned and allows the top to cook. So the lower you put it in the oven, the more chance you're gonna have of burning the bottom because the heat source in every oven that's ever made is coming from the bottom. Some convection ovens have that fan in the back that kind of helps circulate it. But even then, on the bottom rack, it's dangerous. This is not going on the bottom rack. I'm probably going to put it on the middle so I can keep an eye on it. The one thing I know that's going to happen putting it on the middle rack is it's going to get a little bit more brown on the bottom, but I'm willing to take that chance just to be able to not open the oven over and over again. So it's going to go in here maybe 10 minutes, okay? I think we are right about to the point that I'm ready to go in. I'm going to put this up to maybe medium-low, and we'll probably put it in a minute or so. Other things I have for tonight, I have a little bit of sumac that's going to go on at the very end. It's going to add a gorgeous color, and it kind of has a tartness and acidity to it. I don't know if I can add it right on the frittata or if I'm going to do it on maybe the yogurt that's on the side, but I'll probably use it. I'm going to use a little bit of parsley at the end, and then, like I said before, I'm going to use some lemon zest too. So that's it. Frittata's here. It's going to go in the oven, and yeah, and we'll see what happens. So let's do it. Just know that with a cast iron, the heat conducts even into the handle here. It's not like one of these fancy, there's nothing fancy about it. So you can see it's still not cooked on the top. I can already tell that I have a layer on the bottom. So this goes in. It's at 425, and I'm gonna guess about 10 to 12 minutes. We'll see what happens. We'll come back to you, and we'll see what the finished product looks like. See you in a bit.